Welcome to this deep dive. We've got a really quite striking personal account that one of you shared with us. It comes from a post titled "The Discarded Foot Soldiers of Change."
Yeah, it's one person's story, really looking back at their time in a political campaign. And what we want to do here is really unpack the feelings, the experiences in this specific account, understand their journey from being right in the thick of it to feeling, well, left out afterward.
Exactly. And we're really zoning in on the contrast the author highlights, right? That difference between the campaign buzz, the promises or perceived promises, and then the reality check after the election, at least as they saw it and wrote about it here.
So let's start with the campaign itself. What does the author actually describe from that time? They seem to paint a picture of deep connection, wouldn't you say?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Based on this source during the campaign, it sounds like there was this really strong sense of, community. Like numbers were saved in phones, calls got answered right away, people were called brothers, and there was this belief fueled by talk of plans, especially for young people, that, this time would be different.
And it wasn't just passive belief, according to them. They really emphasize the effort involved. They talk about, running behind convoys, making content, waiting in long lines, even having tough arguments with family, losing friends, other opportunities maybe.
Big sacrifices.
Yeah, and they state pretty clearly this was all done out of loyalty. Loyalty to the cause, the people. That level of personal investment is really key to understanding their later feelings in the account.
Okay, so here's where the story, or rather the account, takes that difficult turn the author describes.
Yeah.
They write that once the campaign succeeded, once the people they backed were sitting comfortably in office, things changed dramatically.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly based on their words.
They actually describe being treated, and this is their phrase, like we're strangers.
And the language gets stronger. The source uses words suggesting their efforts felt disposable, like their usefulness just ended past the ballot box. That's a harsh feeling to convey.
And what really seems to drive this feeling home, for the author at least, is when they tried to reach out after the election for support.
Ah, yes, that specific example.
They mention asking for help support to further my education, a concrete request.
And the author claims those requests were ignored, not just once, but multiple times. And crucially, ignored by, in their words, the very same people I used to stand side by side with, the ones I helped push into power. That detail really lands the sense of betrayal they felt.
Yeah, and they're careful to frame it not as like entitlement, but as heartbreak, a bitter realization. The author kind of speculates maybe they were only useful when the microphones were out and the votes were up for grabs.
It's a painful thought.
It is. And while they say they're still proud they voted for change, that feeling of being forgotten by people who seem to promise connection, they describe it as cold.
That perceived shift, that coldness, leads the author to ask this really pointed question in the source itself. Were they really brothers? Or perhaps were they just convenient noise for the campaign?
Wow, convenient noise. That phrase it really sums up the deep disillusionment described in this post, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's that feeling of putting your all into something, believing in that connection, that brotherhood, only to feel like it just evaporated once the votes were counted.
Exactly. It puts a spotlight on the author's view of, let's say, the potentially transactional side of some campaign relationships versus the genuine bond they thought they were building. The account really hammers home that personal shift saved numbers to ignored requests.
Right. That specific journey from loyalty felt during the campaign to the reality described after the election, that's the absolute core of this source material.
It's definitely a powerful personal take on that experience. So reflecting on this account and the specific feelings the author describes, maybe here's something for you, the listener, to think about. What does this one story suggest about how loyalty and relationships get built, or maybe don't get built, during political campaigns? Especially when you look at it from the viewpoint of a grassroots supporter pouring their heart and soul into it.